Hi, thanks for joining us today for our new video. And this month we're going to do a video that involves lettering and creating a poster. And the fun thing about this poster is that the poster is going to be completely about you. So if you picked up a kit from the library, I'm just going to quickly go through what you need. Let's see. You're going to need a piece of white paper. Now if you picked up a kit, your paper might be a little bit larger. And if you're working from home, you can use computer paper, printer paper, that's fine. We just want white paper with no blue lines on it. Okay, so step one, we're going to get our materials together. For coloring purposes, I'm going to say I would recommend either colored pencils or markers, only because a crayon is very difficult to sharpen to a point, and some of these areas are going to be very small, so it'd be difficult to color. You're going to need a number 2 pencil. With that, you might want an eraser, and you would have a pencil sharpener in case you need it, a black Sharpie. This is a fine point, and you can also use an extra fine point, whatever you have available. So I think that's everything that we need: paper, pencil, erasers, and something to color with. Now, in your kit, if you received a kit from the library, there's a sheet that looks like this. And this is basically shapes that we would use on our poster. And what we're going to do, what I'm going to show you how to do, is to put lettering within the bubbles, and the lettering will take the shape of the bubbles. Now this is a technique that was very popular in the 1960s for music posters, but it's also used today. Let's see. Here's an ad for Pine Sol, and you can see that the lettering takes the shape of scent coming out of the bottle. It says forces unruly nose hairs to walk the plank, but they've fitted the letters into the shape, and that's what we're going to do with our poster. So even though it was developed during the 60s, it's still used in advertising today, and it makes a fun poster. So let's see, I'm going to demonstrate for you. The other thing that you might have gotten in your kit is a sample of block letters, and the reason I chose block letters is because they're the easiest lettering to read, and since this is a poster, we want it to be very legible. So if I was to draw the letter T like this is basically a line drawing. But once I make the T, or another letter, it doesn't matter, let's make an H. This is a line, but this is a shape. So the shapes are what we want. The shapes are what's going to create the image on the poster. So let me just turn this over. So suppose I had a shape that was like this, and I wanted to put the word "the" in there. What I'm looking for, here's the word. I'll just do it quickly. Okay. Now, how do you know how to put it in the bubble? All I'm looking at are the tops of the letters, like here, here, and here, and the bottoms of the letters. This, 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 and this. So for instance, in here I would, there's my T, there's my H, and there's my E. So it's the word "the," but I've made it fit into the shape. So what you have to do is think of the letters as squishable. You can make them shorter, or you can extend them and make them bigger, depending on what the shape of the shape looks like. So the other way I might want to do it, if I had a shape that looked like that. Say I wanted to do the same word, the word "the." Think of a fan that's bigger on the top, so the tops of my letters are going to be spread out a little bit. Okay, and there's the word "the," and it fits in that shape. So that's actually what we're going to try to do. So on this sheet that you should have gotten in your kit, or you could have downloaded from the website, you could practice your name. That would probably be the best thing to do. And also in your packet, I gave you information sheet that explains that in order, I'm sure you've had this happen, you start to draw a word, and before you get to the end, you run out of space. So the easiest way to accomplish that and get it in there is, what's the middle letter of the word? So my name is Teresa, so I know that the R is the middle of my name. So I could put my R right here. I can put my E here. I need an H. And I need a T. And then I need another E here. I need an S. I have to think about this one. There we go. And I didn't see, happened to me, I didn't leave enough space really for the A. But I'm squeezing it into that shape, and I have to make it either stretch out or compress depending on this, I have to get into the shape. So, and the reason again that we're using capital letters is because it's the most easily read lettering. Anything fancy that's in this design might be too difficult to read. And I'm going to show you an example of lettering done this way. This is just off the internet. It's basically, if you're interested in this, if you Google 1960s music posters, you'll see some fabulous examples from then. But this is a very simple one that was in black and white, so I thought it would print out well. You can see that it says Afterthought Happening, Centaurs, Black Snake Blues Band, Saturday, October 15th. And you can see how these shapes make an interesting design, and it's easy to read the lettering because it's in black. Okay, so when we do our poster, the one thing I want you to remember is if it's an entire word, whatever color you choose to color it, stick to one color, because if you say did red, blue, yellow, green, it's very, very difficult to read. So we want it to be monochromatic within a word, but each word could be a different color, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. So this is a good example of what the lettering can look like. Now, within the kit, there was a sample that I had colored, but here's the sample here. And I did it on a piece of computer paper, so it's fairly small. It's not really huge, but I wanted to just explain what we're going to do. For your poster, we're going to pick at least 3 images that relate to you. For instance, as you've seen by my previous videos, I like Halloween. So here I have a pumpkin. I have a witch's hat up here. And somewhere here I have a little candy corn. I also like the fall, so I have a couple of leaves here that I could actually do in autumn colors, or if I wanted to, I could do them green. It doesn't matter. I'm an artist, so over here I have a couple of paintbrushes and some paint dabs. I put in the words Happy Halloween. I put in the word spooky, again, a reference to Halloween. Let's see, I put the word boo, so I could fill this in. I like to read. I like to garden, so I have a couple of flowers with the word garden. Let's see. This is my first name, Teresa. I have Happy Halloween, naturally. Jessica is my daughter. Ethan is my son. Here's my name again. Antonio is my grandson. Aubrey's my granddaughter. So, but what I started with was just my images. So for your poster, you want 3 very simple images that reflect interests that you have. For instance, maybe you like to play PlayStation 2, so maybe the PlayStation, I don't know what it's called, the thing, that would be a good image for you. Maybe you like to skateboard, so a skateboard would be a good thing. So when we put this on our poster, there are 3 ways you can do it. You can freehand it, of course, or you could print out an image, do the pencil in the back, as I showed you in the previous 2 videos, and transfer it on, or you could trace it on. And the way you would trace it on, since this is just white paper, you put your image behind the paper, put your paper on a window, and you'll be able to see through it, and you can trace it that way. So this was my sample, and I just wanted to show you. And the other thing I wanted you to notice, it actually reads from different directions. If I turn it this way, Antonio and Aubrey's name are here, Spooky's this way, my name is this way. I can turn it this way, and let's see. I can turn it this way, and it reads like that. So it's not that there's a top and a bottom. It's a poster, so it can be very, very interspersed all through it. Now, last month we talked about positive and negative. So if I only colored in my letters and my shapes, and I left the white area white, that would be my negative space, and all of my colors would be my positive space. But there's another way you could do it. This is the same image, and what I did is the negative space on this one, I took my black Sharpie and I colored in and made it black. So I didn't go all the way to the edge because it's kind of redundant, but you get the idea. Now I could go back in and I could color this. So what's the difference between using colored pencils and using markers? Pencils, colored pencils in particular, When you're coloring, the color is basically laying on the surface of the paper. When you take a marker and you color with a marker, it's wet, so it actually saturates into the paper. So the color is much more intense when you use a marker. But again, if you're going for a look that's kind of like pastel-y looking, you can use colored pencils and you can shade, which a lot of people like to do. Like if I did this leaf, I could shade this different colors with my pencils. So there's no right or wrong way to color it. The only thing I would say again is for one word, like the word Jessica, I would make each of these letters the same color so that it reads as that word. But here's a break and here's my name. So now I could do this as separate color. But you don't want to do like a rainbow effect, not in the wording. You can do rainbow effect somewhere else, just not in the words, or you won't be able to read what you did. Okay, so that's 2 samples that would have been in the kit. Okay, now, images. In the directions, I mentioned that whatever the object is, say you like science, for instance, and you put in science images. If you put the word cartoon in front of it, the images that come up will be very, very simple. There won't be any details. It'll be just literally line drawings. Now, something like this, you could definitely freehand it onto your poster. Or again, if you're not comfortable doing that, you could just flip it over, put the pencil on the back, position it on the poster, take a pen, trace it on, and it'll be on your poster. Again, the other thing you can do is put this against a window, put your white paper in front of it. You'll be able to see this image through the paper, and you can use your Sharpie and do it that way. All right, so again, Google image and then put the word cartoon in front of the word of what you want to download. So you'll get pictures like this. Here's a simple star that came up, ballet shoes, a simple cupcake, and this was actually from a poster that I did for a girl who liked to bake. She was big on bake sales and making cookies and that kind of thing, so I think I put in baking utensils, cartoon, and this is what came up. So again, very, very easy to copy. You wouldn't have to necessarily trace this. You could probably freehand it, but this is how simple we're talking. Okay, let me put those aside for a minute. So you're going to download 3 images that you feel kind of reflect your interests. Now, if you picked up the kit from the library, your paper might be a little bit larger. This again was just regular computer printer paper. So why 3 images? Well, in the world of design, it's better to have an odd number of things. In other words, 3 looks better on a sheet than 4 does, believe it or not. So here's a very, very simple, the start of a poster. I put a leaf because I like the fall. I put a paintbrush because I'm an artist, and I put a pumpkin because I like Halloween. So how do I get my letters on here? Well, the next step would be to take a pencil. You're going to use a number 2, and we're going to create shapes to fill the sheet in. But for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm actually going to use a pencil that's slightly darker so that you're going to be able to see it. So here are my 3 images. You can start anywhere, but I'll start down here. And I want to kind of I'm following the shape of this leaf, and I'm making this image. I can come over here, and I can cut across and make it like that. Maybe I want one here, like so. Come over here. I'm not going right up to the edge of the paper. Now, around my pumpkin, maybe I want to go like this. Here's the thing, there's no right or wrong way to do this, but my suggestion would be make your areas larger this time because it's your first time and you do have to put letters in there. So I think it'd be easier if your areas are bigger and it'd be easier to get the words in. As you do this more and you get more proficient at it, then you could certainly make any interesting shape with your bubbles here. I call them bubbles, but for lack of anything better to call them. Okay, so now I have filled in my background with these bubbles. And now I want to put words in here. So if you want, you can, I have mine in the horizontal position. You could put your paper the other way too. You can have it vertical if that makes sense to you. But again, it's totally your personal choice. So what words would I put in here? Well, I like Halloween, so let's start with the word boo. Very easy. B. I just need 2 openings to make it look like a B. And again, what am I looking at with the lettering? I'm looking at the top of the letter and the bottom of the letter. So I have one more O to fit in here. Okay, and now boo fits in this space. Now, my name is Teresa, so I'm going to put that in here because this is the other thing. If you have a long word, you want to obviously look for a bubble that you drew that has more length to it. If it's a short word like the letter boo, the word boo, I could put it into a smaller balloon or bubble. So here I'm making my name. This isn't the greatest pencil, but it's dark, and that's what I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So now you can see that I'm going to swing around that way. So here's my R, another E, an S, and finally an A over here. So there's my name, T-H-E-R-E-S-A, and I've swung the letters to fit the space. Now here I have a large space, could be anything. Let's see. Well, my last name is Law, so let's do this. L. L-A. And now I'm going to make a U here. All right. So now I have my last name, L-A-U. I have my first name. This one goes the direction that the bubble is going in. And over here I put the word boo for Halloween. So you get the idea. You're basically going to fill these areas with words. And the word should be something that's meaningful to you, like nicknames, friends' names, your pet's names, something like that. So what happens after that? Then I'm going to take my Sharpie, as soon as I kind of cap it here, and I'm going to outline the letters that I just drew in black Sharpie. This way, when the poster is done, it's going to be very readable, and I can color it with either colored pencils or markers, combination of the two. And it's not that you can't use crayons, I'm just making the point that crayons, you can't really get a fine point, so it might be a little tricky. If your areas are small, it might be tricky to get a crayon in there to color. So in this case, I am outlining my words, my letters. Okay. So there's my name in black marker now. Whoops, I want to close that off, close that off. So how did I squish it to the bubble? I looked at the top of the letter and I looked at the bottom of the letter. And I had to make sure that the bottom of my letter touched the bottom of my bubble and the top of my letter followed the line of the bubble. That way you can squish them down or you can make them bigger, however you need to do it. So now you're going to do this with all of the bubbles on your page. Then you're going to take an eraser and clean up all the pencil, get that off, so that you're left with just a black line drawing that will look, again, like this. You don't see the bubbles around the words, you just see the words. So that's what we're going for. But you're going to do it either on that size paper or on the larger paper if that's what you picked up from the library. All right, so what should it look like when it's done? Here's an old sample, but since I have it and it's colorful, we'll use this one. So in this case, I was teaching a summer program at Brookdale, and it had to do with art from the 1960s. So we were studying people like Andy Warhol and different artists from that period, Peter Max. And the 60s is when the posters with the biomorphic lettering, which is what we're doing, became very popular. So on this assignment, what I asked them to do was to find images that kind of reflected what was going on in the 1960s. So we have the peace sign. We also have a peace sign here. This is a Volkswagen bus. Very, very simple, very, very simple images. This was a guitar. I was thinking Woodstock in that case. Let's see what else. Now, the same words that you've seen in my other poster. Here's my first name, Teresa. My grandson's name, Antonio. There's Ethan, Jessica. Here's Jessica, my daughter. And again, it's not left to right. They're kind of like moving around the poster. It'll make your eye move around the poster too. Over here, we have a dove for peace. We have the word love with the V being a heart. Now, this is something you can also do. I drew a dog bowl, and my dog's name was Blue, so I put his name in the shape of the dog bowl, and he was a pit bull. So in the inside of the bowl, I put the word pit bull, and then I put the word blue, and I made it fit the bowl. Here, I had a flower shape, so Aubrey is my granddaughter's name, Aubrey. So it's a flower, but it's also a word. So as you do this a little while, and you do it more frequently, you'll get even more creative about this. You'll be able to do just about anything with the letters. Now, obviously, me and Halloween. So here we go. Here's the word Halloween, my birth date, and I put it in a big spider web. But again, I had these letters follow the shape of the spider web. This is just a rainbow effect. And all I did, I drew a spiral, and then I started with, rainbow colors. You could start with any color. I went yellow to orange to red and did the rainbow, and then back to yellow again. Let's see if there's anything else in here I wanted to point out. Now, this was done with marker, but then I also went back. You can see that the dove is shaded slightly. There's a little bit of shading here. This was done with colored pencil. I had left the paper white there, so I went back with a gray pencil and I just put shading in. You can definitely use both. You can use markers and colored pencils. That would look great. And again, it should really reflect you. Now, obviously, I have more than 3 things in this picture, but again, I've been doing this for a while. I would say for the first one, if you can get 3 images on the paper and some very large words just to get the feel for how to do it, then you could make them for friends and things, and you could add additional images. And again, you want to try to keep it an odd number, like put 3 or put 5 or put 7. What happens if you're designing, I can't use that because it's dark on the back. When you're designing something, if you do even numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's what they call almost like a duck walk, like a duck walked across your paper. It's very rigid. Where if you put an odd number of things, it's called the golden triangle, and it's much more visually interesting. So stick to either 3 items, 5 items, 7 items, whatever. Okay, so that's what hopefully your posters will look like when you're done. Colorful, all the information reflects you and your interests. Now, I just wanted to show you a couple more things. Make sure that I showed you everything that's on the directions. Let's see. Okay. Now, as far as coloring, you notice that these are pretty vivid colors. Part of the reason for that is because these are markers, and markers, again, are saturated into the paper, so you get very, very intense colors. This was something that I had in my things, and you can see that the colors are very interesting. So one suggestion would be, instead of using red, for instance, use red-orange or red-violet. Same thing, instead of just green, grass green, use blue-green or yellow-green. Those are called tertiary colors, which next month we're going to get into, not next month, 2 months from now, I'm sorry, we're going to get into color a little bit. But those colors are a little bit more interesting. Like you can see that this is yellow-green as opposed to green. So sometimes just changing the shade of the color a little bit makes it much more interesting. So be very, very bold with your coloring. Now, what else can you do with these letters? Well, here's a very old picture, but I wanted to show you. Once you get familiar with creating shapes and filling in with letters, you can do an entire poster with just words. Now this one, I colored them all the same color just to make it a little more vivid as far as the design element goes. But imagine if this was your friends and a lot of information about you. You could have every word. This girl's name is Mary. Here's Alessandra. Each of these could have been a different color. I wouldn't mix colors within the word, but I could have made each person a different color, and that's an awesome looking poster. But to make it clear for you to see that this is a very interesting design, and again, it doesn't go left to right. I can turn it this way, and there are some names. Here's Mrs. Glester. Let's see. Here's Margaret, got cut off a little bit. Jeanette, if I go all the way around, I have Kathleen, Jeffrey. So it actually works in any direction. There's no top and bottom to this. It's basically a very cohesive design. And the thing that pulls this together is the uniformity of the color. But again, you could totally make this wild, make some crazy, crazy colors. And the other option is to do the negative space in black, like we looked at before. Right now, the negative space is white and the letters are colored. You could color the letters and do your negative space with a black Sharpie, which also looks very cool. So picture this, but instead of a white background, it would have a black background. Also very, very cool. So I think that's all the directions for this. This is one of the simpler projects, but I think the end result is actually very cool, and I think you will like it. And again, these things, once you know how to do it, it's a fun project to do for friends, just to give them, to put on their wall. Posters, I'll just give you a little background on this, are basically what they call ephemera, which means it's usually on paper, it's on cardboard. It's really not meant to last forever, as opposed to Da Vinci painting on a pine board or painting on a canvas. That is intended to last indefinitely. When you do a poster, it's usually on something flimsier than that. So in the 19th century, in the 1800s, that's when posters really started to become an art form. They've been around all this time, 200 years, and they'll continue to be around. I'm sure anytime you've gone in the car on a telephone pole, you'll see posters for everything from garage sales to missing pets. And those are posters, but these are art posters. This is like a design project as opposed to just an information poster. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to cover with this project. I wanted to mention that in the spring, we're going to have a digital art show. So any of these projects that you do with these videos, if you would keep your work, if you're interested in this spring, we'll give you more information as time goes on, and we'll have you submit these images, and then we'll have like a virtual show to see what everybody else is doing. And again, the thing is, I don't want your work to look like anybody else's. It's your work. It should look like your influence, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. That's a great thing about art. So just enjoy yourself, have fun with this, and I will see you next month. Bye.